So another method to solve quadratic equations that are not factorable is using the quadratic formula. The quadratic formula, I have it right here, and I'm also going to include the quadratic formula soon for you to remember it quickly. Again, this is just one of the methods to solve equations specifically that cannot be solved using factoring. Those equations that you can solve using factoring, you can still apply the quadratic formula to, and you should still get the same answers as you would if you factored. But we already solved this equation, and I will include the link to that video here at the bottom. But we already solved this equation, we already know the answer to it. We solved it using completing the square. Now I would like to solve the same equation using the quadratic formula. And the quadratic formula, again, is right here. So to use the quadratic formula, you need three things. You need an A, you need a B, and you need a C. Those numbers you get from the equation. The A is the number in front of x squared, which is 1 in this problem. So this is our A. B is the number in front of x, which is 2, and C is the number by itself, which is 5. So you will replace each B with a 2, each A with a 1, and each C in the formula with the 5, and then you just simplify. So here we go. The formula says, first of all, I see negative B. So I know my B is 2, so I'm going to replace B here with a 2, but I will keep the negative. If B by itself was already negative, let's say it was minus 2, then this would become a negative 2, so it will turn into positive. Plus or minus B squared, again, my B is 2, so I'm going to remove the B and put a 2 here. 2 squared. Minus 4, and then A, my A is 1, so I will remove A and place a 1 here. And then C is 5, so I'll remove the C and put the 5 here. All over 2A, again 2, and A becomes a 1. Well, let's now simplify. So I'm going to start simplifying this from under the radical. Specifically, I will first do the 2 squared, and then 4 times 1 times 5. So we'll first take care of that. So x equals negative 2 plus or minus the square root of 4, right? 2 squared is 4. And then 4 times 1 is 4 times 5 is 20. So 4 minus 20 all over 2 times 1, which is 2. So now I will do the subtraction under the square root. 4 minus 20 is negative 16. So we have x equals negative 2 plus or minus the square root of negative 16 all over 2. So now I'm ready to simplify the radical if I can. What is the square root of negative 16? Well, the square root of 16 is 4, but the square root of negative 16 is 4i. So this is negative 2 plus or minus 4i all over 2. And most of the time, these answers can be simplified even further. I will do that by making this larger fraction into 2 smaller fractions, each with the denominator of 2. So my first fraction will be negative 2 over 2, and my second fraction will be plus or minus 4i over 2, and then we'll simplify each of those individually. Okay, so remember, this was our answer, negative 2 plus or minus 4i over 2, and I split it into 2 fractions, and now I'm ready to reduce. Negative 2 over 2 is negative 1, then I keep my plus or minus, and then 4i over 2 is 2i. And this is it, this is our answer. The two answers we have are negative 1 plus 2i and negative 1 minus 2i. And you can compare these answers with the answers we got by solving this equation with completing a square. They were exactly the same. The order of these terms may be reversed, so you may have seen negative plus or minus 2i minus 1 in the back, but it's essentially the same thing.